acting chairman of our great party, members of the National Working Committee of our great party, the acting chairman of the POT and former Senate President, members of the Board of Trustees here present, our most distinguished senators, our former governors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Someone asked me, what would I do if I lost my election petition appeal at the Supreme Court? In response, I said that as long as Nigeria wins, the struggle would have been worth the while. By that, I meant that the bigger loss would not be mine, but Nigeria's, if the Supreme Court legitimizes illegality, including forgery, identity theft, and perjury as it has done. If the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, implies by its judgment that crime is good and should be rewarded, then Nigeria has lost, and the country is doomed irrespective of who occupies the presidential seat. If the Supreme Court decides that the electoral umpire, INEC, can tell the public one thing and then do something else in order to reach a corruptly predetermined outcome, then there is really no hope for the country's democracy and electoral process. Obviously, the consequences of those decisions for the country will not end at the expiration of the current government. They will last for decades. I am absolutely sure that history will vindicate me. We now know what the Supreme Court has decided. At critical points in my political life, I always ignored the easy but ignorable path and choosing the difficult but dignified path, the path of truth, of morality, of democracy, and the rule of law. I always chose freedom over servitude. Whatever the personal discomforts my choice entails. When I joined politics, the critical challenge was easing the military out of power so that civilian democratic governance could be restored in Nigeria. It later became a very defining struggle, and as one of the leaders of that struggle, I was targeted for elimination. In one incident, 9 policemen guarding my home in Kaduna were murdered in an attempt to assassinate me. I was also forced into exile for 9 months because of that incident. In addition, my interest in a logistics company that I co-owned was confiscated and given to friends of the military government. As vice president in the civilian government that succeeded the military, I, again, at great personal cost, chose to oppose the extension of the tenure of the government beyond the 2 4-year terms enshrined in our constitution. At the current historic moment, the easy option for me would have been to fall off and retreat after the mandate banditry perpetrated by the APC and INEC. But I went to the Nigerian courts to seek redress, I even went to an American court to help with unraveling what our state institutions charged with such responsibilities were unwilling or unable to do, including unraveling the qualifying academic records of the person sworn in as our president, and by implication, hopefully, who he really is. I offered that evidence, procured with the assistance of the American court to our Supreme Court, to do justice in this case. I give this background to underscore that what we are currently dealing with is bigger than one or two presidential elections, and is certainly bigger than Atiku Abubakar. It is not about me. It is about our country, Nigeria, in your future. It is about the kind of society we want to live for the next generation, and what kind of example we want to set for our children and their children. It is about the reputation of Nigeria and Nigerians in the eyes of the world. We showed incontrovertible evidence that Bola Tinubu was not qualified to contest the presidential election because he forged the qualifying academic certificate which he submitted to INEC. In fact, a simple check on Tinubu's past records in his possession would have shown INEC that Tinubu broke the law and should not have been allowed to contest the election in the first place. We showed irrefutable evidence of gross irregularities, violence, and manipulations during the elections. We showed incontrovertible evidence that INEC violated the Electoral Act and deliberately sabotaged its own publicly announced processes and procedures in order to illegally declare Tinubu elected. The position of the Supreme Court, even though final, leaves so much unanswered. Even the rebuke by retired Justice Musa Datijo Mohammed is a confirmation from within the Apex Court that all is not well with the Supreme Court. The court, and indeed the judiciary, must never lend itself to politicization, as it is currently the norm of nearly every institution in Nigeria. By the way, the strong rebuke of the Apex Court by a revered justice who had meritoriously served for more than 4 decades should not be swept under the carpet. The alarm raised by Justice Mohammed and recently former INEC Chairman Professor Tayo Jega offer Nigerians an explanation into why the electoral and judicial system have become the lost, not the last, but the lost hope of the common man. Judges are no longer appointed based on merit, but are products of the interplay of politics and nepotism. Worse still, the appointment of electoral officials has also been hijacked by the ruling party as seen in the latest nomination of resident electoral commissioners, where card-carrying members of the ruling party and aides to politicians in the APC have been appointed into INEC. When two critical institutions like the court and the electoral commission are trapped in an evil web of political marginalization, it becomes next to impossible for democracy to thrive. As a stakeholder in the presidential election of February 25th, I, along with other well-meaning Nigerians, have done my bit in ensuring that our democratic process enjoys the privilege of full disclosure character deficiencies of the current political leadership. I also believe that even if the Supreme Court believes otherwise, the purpose of technology in our electoral system is to enhance transparency and not merely as a viewing center. We have to move with the world and not be stuck in time. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me make a few proposals that I believe will help. Listen carefully. We can urgently make constitutional amendments, and I'm happy our members of the National Assembly are here, that will prevent any court or tribunal from hiding behind technicalities and legal sophistry to affirm electoral haste and undermine the will of the people. It must be expressed through free, fair, and transparent elections that respect the will of the people. Firstly, we must make electoral voting and collation. Members of our National Assembly here present, we must make electronic voting and collation of results mandatory. We don't want to see any human being handling our results, whether at the polling units, at the ward, at the local government. We should all be able to stay in our homes and look at the television as the television is putting our results. This is the 21st century. In countries less advanced than Nigeria are doing so already. It is only bold initiatives that transform societies. Secondly, our members of the National Assembly, we must provide that all litigation arising from a disputed elections must be concluded before the inauguration of the winner. Please, I never know. This was the case in 1979. I don't know how we came to this present situation. The current time frame between elections and inauguration of winners is adequate to dispense with all election litigations. What we have currently is akin to asking thieves to keep their loot and use the same to defend themselves while the case of their robbery is being decided. It only encourages mandate and banditry rather than discourage it. Thirdly, in order to ensure popular mandate and real representation, we must move to require a candidate for president to earn 50% plus one of the valid vote cards, failing which a runoff between the top two candidates will be held. Most countries that elect their presidents use this two-round tier system with slight variations rather than our current fast past the post system. Examples include France, Finland, Australia, Bulgaria, Portugal, Poland, Turkey, Brazil, Argentina, Africa, Sierra Leone, Namibia, Mozambique, Madagascar, and even Liberia, where a runoff is expected to hold in the coming days. Fourthly, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in order to reduce the desperation of incumbents and distractions from governing, and also to promote equity and national unity, we need to move to a single 6-year term for President to be rotated among the 6 geopolitical zones. This will prevent the ganging up of 2 or more geopolitical zones to alternate the presidency among themselves to the exclusion of other zones. God bless you all.